Hello everyone, welcome to a little coloring tutorial video, which I guess technically was not the first choice that was sent out in the poll. It was actually supposed to be drawing bodies, but I feel like that's been done before, and I'm not like too good at drawing bodies, and I'm not like too knowledgeable about anatomy, so I feel like I would not be up to the task. So I'm gonna do the second best thing, and the second best thing that you guys asked for, which is a coloring tutorial with markers. And before we start, because this video is so pertaining to color, I thought I would go over the color wheel real fast. So here it is on the screen. It's pretty basic, the split up color wheel. Here's a more advanced one, which you can see on like digital art programs, but color wheel is a good tool for choosing color in general. If you are looking to draw something or color something and you're not really sure like what colors to use, I know coloring is like a very daunting task for a lot of people, but I promise you it's only scary if you make it scary. But I'm gonna start talking about the color wheel and its complementary colors and warmer tones and cooler tones and how those can all contribute to like the theme of your artwork. If you're not interested in learning about that and are more interested in just my coloring process, go ahead and skip to the timestamp on the screen. But anyways, what's pictured on the screen is your like standard color wheel. If you pick any color, let's say yellow in this case, you can go across the color wheel and see what its complementary color is, which is basically like its opposite color. Like if I inverted this wheel, that yellow would be violet, right? So yellow and violet are complementary. Other like well-known examples are red and green, blue and orange, and etc, etc. Though you don't need to include like red and green, which I honestly think is kind of ugly in my opinion. Like I don't like usually like seeing those colors together. If you are looking for like adding contrast within your artworks and like whatever, then it's a really good way to like, you know, adding accents. I feel like if you have a very monotone color palette for whatever you're drawing, or if, like say you're drawing a character and they're all blue, but then you add in like orange eyes and you want to have the focus be on the eyes, all the attention is going to go to the eyes because it's the only thing in another color. Think of that phenomenon wherever like I know a lot of artists do this. They like make their whole painting or whatever like gray, and then they give it like one red element and it like draws all your attention to that red element, and that's like the emphasis. This is like a cooler way to do that, because sure, the gray and red, it's like cool, it's like classy, but I feel like you can do the same thing with colors other than gray. I think I'm just a gray hater. I just hate the color gray. Anyways, me and you, we probably have different like styles and different colors that we like using normally in our artwork, so I won't like be, oh my god, you have to use this color scheme. Just test out and use your own personal preference to find color schemes that you enjoy working with. But just keep in mind the ideas of complementary colors, warmer tones, cooler tones, and also the colors that surround a specific color on the color wheel that can really help you and like point you in the right direction when it comes to choosing colors. But moving on to like actual coloring and the processes, I thought I'd go over blending real quick. Here I chose like two completely different colors, and those colors are like almost opposites on the color wheel. As you can see, red and green, I mean, it's pink, but you know what I mean. The color in the middle formed would be like some sort of like muddy brown. Don't be alarmed by this. That's just normal. You're gonna blend those two drastically different colors. But with alcohol markers, you could use a colorless blender if that's what you really want, but I don't really use colorless blenders because I don't know, too much time, and you can do the same things without a colorless blender. I laid down the two colors, and then what you basically do is you just keep overlapping with each color until it like looks smooth enough. But I do recommend putting like 2 sheets of paper underneath if you're like mixing two colors that are like as drastically different as this. I tried to do a demonstration with the colors were more similar, like right above this. You can see it just looks like one flat blue color, but I promise it's two hues. It's two different hues. It's like one's like teal and one's like kind of a navy, but it looks the same on camera, but I promise you it's not. But that would take a lot less like going back and forth to make sure it's blended. As you can see, I took like, it was like so many layers to try and make it like blend as smooth as possible, but I got there eventually. Now to talk more about coloring process is I drew a person who is right there. I'm going to talk more about how I shade darker skin, darker hair, and then I'll go on to lighter hair and stuff like that. Even though lighter hair I feel like has a similar process, you just use lighter colors, I'm still going to talk. Anyways, the one on the left I am gonna shade with a cooler color palette, and the one on the right I will shade with a warmer color palette as far as skin goes. So I chose like a main like mid-tone for her skin first, and then I threw in a shade darker than that, and then a couple of like blues and purples for shading wise because we're going for a cooler shadow color scheme-ish, and then I also threw in colors lighter than the ones mentioned. So when you color, especially when you're coloring skin, you want to go with the lightest color first and then like build up to your desired color. So I started with this really light peach color, and like the pro of like coloring in darker skin is the fact that you can like use really like colors that not like anything close to the color you wanted, but because it's so light, you can still like go over it with the darker colors and it's like it won't show up. So you can like map out where you want the highlights to be on the face without like making too much of a deal, because that's not really going to be the lightest. I then went in with my mid-tone and I just filled in some of the gaps between wherever the mid-tones were, just like a place where the skin would be normal. A good rule of thumb is, especially if you're doing like more realistic portraits, the darkest areas of the face are going to be in the corners of the mouth, the nostrils, and like the corners of the eyes. And the lightest colors, like wherever the lightest colors are often going to be wherever there's like the most elevation on your face. So whether that be your cheeks or like the tip of your nose, or just places where your face is just more glossy in general, which could be your eyes, your forehead, so then your teeth, which I guess wouldn't really count when you're coloring in skin. But another good idea would be to pick a direction of light that's directly shining on your drawing, or just like pick where the sun would be, like theoretically. It just helps you like map out where you want the shadows to be and where you want the painting to look like more rational, I guess. So like in this case, I tried to make the sun look like it was coming like, actually I don't remember if it was top left or top right, but one of those two, and then you can kind of just plan out the shadows like that. And then I took a shade that was darker than my mid-tone and I just filled in where the darker parts of her face would fall. Then I went in with a like lighter purple color and I just made like the entire parts of her face like more cooler tones. Because it's technically just like a really light purple, it didn't have any impact on like the other parts of this drawing, and because her skin is darker, it didn't like show up like too much as being like directly just purple. If it was like peach skin, then yeah, it would probably like be more obvious, but I just took I think it's a slightly darker purple, and I went over her with like blush and I just like added shadows with it. Another thing which you'll learn like mostly in like realistic portraits is that the whites of the eye are never completely white. Like even if your style is more cartoony, I would encourage using like maybe like a little offset color to like fill in the eyeballs. It can also like let you like emphasize parts of the eye white more if you like go in with like a white gel pen, or maybe that's just like a stylistic choice on my end. But anyways, I went in with this really dark like purple shadow color. It looks like it's black. It's not black, it's like very dark purple, and then I filled in like the darkest parts of their face. I think in this part of the drawing I was like aiming for the shadow to just be like direct center on her face, but it didn't matter too much, I guess, in this drawing. So yeah, I just went in with it, and then I took the mid-tone and I just started blending like crazy so it didn't look crazy. Now on like full body drawings, I don't usually like put a ton of detail into my eyes. I will talk about like what I do in like portrait drawings, but whenever it's like just full body like this, I usually just fill it up with one color, maybe like two colors. If it's dark, I usually just do one, and then I go in with a white gel pen and then I make everything sparkle. If you don't have a white gel pen, which I understand they're like really pricey, you can go for like acrylic paint and like a little tiny brush, or I think they sell like whiteout pens at like Dollar Tree, which you could probably use. I just like outlined the eye, I just like added some sparkles, and I also outlined the lashes because I don't know, I just feel like it just looks so pretty. For blush on darker skin, it would ideally be like more of a maroon color. I went in with this like blue to like first have like an undertone of more bluish shade because she is in a very cooler lighting setting. So I added this like this lighter blue, and then I added this like violet-ish color. I do kind of regret it. I kind of wish I went like with like a maroon directly or like a magenta, but I think it looks okay. I then went over it with white gel pen just because like markers are so blocky. Like you can like not see where something is supposed to start and end a lot of the time because of how thick the like marker nib is. So I just went in with the white to just like kind of make parts of it like stand out. For the hair, well, I knew we're gonna stick to like a cooler tone, but I went in with this yellow because I wanted there to be like the lightest areas. I wanted them to be a little yellow. I don't know. Okay, I did like go over it with pink afterwards, and then I went on like the darker shades on top of that. I usually do darker colors near the root and like near the back of the hair. Here I went in with a purple color to kind of make that like the main light tone of this drawing, and then I went in with some darker tones. Shading and like just coloring in curly hair in general isn't too different than coloring in straight hair on like with markers, because you already have like the black line art of like the curls already in place, or at least that's what I had in this drawing, so you can just kind of follow through while coloring. It's not hard to color in curly hair or anything, but yeah, here I'm going in with the darkest color to her, like again her roots, and then also the ends of her hair, and then I went in with a dark purple like pen to define parts of her curls, and then I went in with a white gel pen to just outline like segments of her hair and just like naturally follow the curl pattern. I mostly did the front pieces, I did some of the back pieces, but yeah. Then I went in to add some earrings because I feel like her ears just like became invisible, so I added like 5 earrings because I have to give all my characters earrings for some reason. Now for the clothes, I did want to start off with the puffer jacket, and I wanted to make it like this like vibrant purple one because I saw this like outfit on Pinterest and I thought it was really cute. But to like contrast that underneath, I did an undershirt in this like lighter teal color, so I went in with this jade green first, which is probably going to be like the lightest shade of the shirt, and then I went in with a darker like cyanish tone. And because the top looked softer, I tried doing like a lot of soft like blending to like make the top look soft, if that makes sense. And then I went in with like this cooler shadow to you know make it look soft. I don't know what I'm saying, but then I went in for the puffer jacket. Then I guess by this point I decided that I wanted the lighting source to be upper right, so I did most of the shadows to like suit that. I made the darker ends where you wouldn't see much light shining through realistically, so that called for almost like all of the color on the left to be like that shade, which was supposed to be the mid-tone. But then I filled in that area with this like light pink color, or like the areas I left white. The thing is, we're using like, this is supposed to be a puffer jacket, right? So stuff made of like polyester, you know, it's shiny, you know what I mean? There's another thing, it's like nylon or something, I don't know if that's the right term, but puffer jackets are pretty shiny, right? So the light segments would not usually be like thoroughly blended if you're coloring them in with like ohuhu markers. I feel like their like shadows and highlights and whatnot are like a lot more harsh, so you wouldn't necessarily have to do much blending, especially between areas where it's like really light and really dark. There's often this like huge contrast between the two, which is something that you should look out for if you're coloring in like shiny fabrics. Now I go in with this like darker like lilac. I think it's actually a blue color, but it looks lilac against the purple, and I used it to again create those harsh contrast points and also highlight wherever the darkest parts of the jacket would be. Now you could stop there, but I don't know what I was thinking. I just went in with this like really dark purple, I guess to create like really rich contrast between some of the points in the jacket, but it looked kind of weird. So then I tried blending it out like copiously because I was like, this looks so weird, I don't know what I just did. Then I think I just gave up, so I started highlighting a bunch with these like white gel pens to try and like save the drawing. It looks okay. I kind of prefer it before I added like those really harsh like dark purple, but yeah. And then I went in with that same purple pen to add like some cross hatching, or I think it's just hatching. I don't think I went over it the other way, but onto the sweater just to make it a little more interesting. I don't know why I did it, but it's okay. Now in an attempt to make the gray pants have like a pink undertone, I went in with a pink marker underneath, and then I went over it with gray marker. I left the very edge of the pants like not colored by the gray, and I just like left it pink, and I think it looks cool. It looks like there's like light shining there and the undertones are coming out. But yeah, I went in with this gray to like emphasize creases and folds of these pants, which looked very loose, which is why the like creases and folds of the drawing would like be very far apart from each other. So yeah, the pants look more like cargos than anything else. And the shoes, I didn't color them too uniquely or anything, so I'm not gonna go over them too much. I just went in with like a base color, and then I used a tone that was like darker but also like more bluish to shade them, if that makes sense. I think I used more green for the white part for some reason, but I think it's okay. Now to like fit more into this video and also talk about different textures, I'm gonna talk about this cat that I drew like at the bottom of her feet, so I can teach you guys how to color in fur with like ohuhu markers, alcohol markers, blah blah blah. Now fur is very much so, especially on cats, it's very fine. You can't like necessarily like make it super detailed if it's like this zoomed out, if it's on this scale. If it's close up, obviously you could like do something different, but what I've learned is you just gotta like do these little specks with your marker, these very like organic, it's like you just took your marker and you just loosely laid it down. I don't know if I'm making sense, but if you just keep layering different tones, you can start off with a lighter color or a darker color. I feel like it doesn't matter, but I did go in with a darker color like in areas underneath the lighter tones, if that makes sense. But if you just keep layering, it will look more like fur. You could achieve this well, I feel like, if you use like bullet tips. I mean, brush tips I feel like are better if you want like the blocky fur, but if you have finer tips, I'd recommend it for adding detail near the end with like a very dark color, you know what I mean? But yeah, I went in with my gel pen just so I can like highlight some parts of the fur that I may have not been able to incorporate. If nothing else, the markers do provide like a good way of like blocking off darker and lighter sections. But yeah, now we move on to a section which I will say I will use as part of the video to talk about what you shouldn't do, because I failed kind of miserably, so I'm just gonna talk about it as like a learning experience for the both of us. Yeah, this was definitely planned. So I chose my colors, right? A lighter, a darker, a color tone, and then I chose some blush shades. But the thing is, I did not decide which like tone to use as my mid-tone like directly, so I had a bit of struggle. I mean, I started with this color, which I guess I was going for making it like the lightest part of the drawing, but then I went in with like this salmon pink color, which usually looks normal, but it's so orange on like this drawing for some reason, and I was so confused. I was like, what? And I guess the moral of the story is to always test your colors, even if you've used those colors a million times before and they've done you no wrong, because what in the world? Here's me moving it to see if it still look orange in a different color setting. I was like, what is happening to my artwork? So I was like mortified. I didn't know what to do, so I tried using this blue to like balance it off, but spoiler alert, the blue was way too dark, so it just made it look green, and the colors just looked really muddy. So you know what I did? Instead of being a rational human being, I just covered it up with a mask. I just gave her a mask. So yeah, you'll see the mask here in a second, but I was like, I need to carry on. So I went in for the eyes. Because I did like a zoomed in portrait, I wanted to focus more on how I color eyes. So I have like a light tone, a regular tone, a purple, like as like an accent. I know I'm using a lot of like blues and purples and like cooler tones in this video, but I'm cold, it's winter, deal with it. So yeah, I went in with this teal at first, and I left a little room for the eye sparkle, and then I went in with this it's a blue. I went in with a dark blue for the iris, and then I kept just overlapping the tones with more and more tones to make it look more layered and defined, I guess. Eyes are just very complex if you look in one. It's not usually just one color shining through. Even if you have like blue eyes, there's gonna be hints of like other colors in them, you know what I mean? There's gonna be hints of green, there's gonna be hints of brown. But yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you had fun watching it, and learned something. I tried to fit stuff into it, but I don't know if any of my thoughts were articulated correctly. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, which will hopefully be a sketchbook tour, because this is the last page. So yeah, bye.